I bought it.
Okay, we got about 1 minute.
What you
When I
talking?
grew up here, I bought it.
First, when you became county commissioner, you're full
You
time.
could be like Ross and his wife, move to
But like you
another
said,
area
you're right.
and get in
You're
politics.
To hold the stuff in.
Well, that plywood holds it against the outside skin.
Ross, isn't that how you retired?
That hollow tube in the bottom, they don't make it heavy enough tube.
I wish I was retired.
I'm busier
I
now.
haven't
than I
figured
was
out how to
working
do
at the
that.
bank.
Failed at retirement.
Max Power's excused.
Oh, I did it for 3 times, I feel.
Oh, I remember
Max
that.
Power's excused.
Yeah.
So,
And that was not planned. But you got through it.
Finally dawned on us, we wasn't counting you.
That's okay. We're ready.
Yeah, I figured when the little red hand gets to the 12, we'll be ready to go, Larry.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Yeah. And then 15 seconds later, we're done.
We'll make it 15 seconds, we shouldn't be long.
We gotta do the pledge, it'll be 30 seconds.
Oh, okay, the pledge.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Grand Traverse County Public Health and Safety Committee. We will start by the raising for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, will you call a roll, please?
Commissioner Fleece?
Present.
Gilman?
here.
Henschel?
Yes.
Inman?
Here.
Lemkool?
Here.
Commissioner Max Bauer is excused. Richardson?
Here.
Thomas?
Yep.
Chairman Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, the next order of business is the approval of the minutes of November 7th. They were provided in your packet.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented on November 7th, 2012.
Second.
Motion by Inman, supported by Henschel. Further discussion?
Roll call.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gilman?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Fleece?
Abstain.
Chairman Wheelock?
I'll abstain, I wasn't here. Okay, that brings us to the first opportunity for public comment. We'll receive public comment now, we'll receive public comment at the end of the meeting, and we will receive comment as we go through discussing specific agenda items. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment at this time? Georgia? Just state your name and...
Georgia Durga, Director, Grand Traverse County Commission on Aging, and I just wanted to give a short report on the Thanksgiving Day dinner at the Senior Center. They held their first annual Thanksgiving Day dinner with entertainment on the actual day, Thanksgiving Day, and I want to thank Herb, Commissioner Lemkool, and his wife for volunteering to help on that day. So people had a great time, and thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to make comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll move.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jason?
That's right. And I'll be sitting here,
That's fine.
okay. Tonight, there's a bit of a development in our state capitol, and I just had a statement that I'd like to read. You know, it takes courage to stand up to adversity and face down what one sees as an injustice. The point where one man is beholden to another simply to ply his trade and put food on the table is simply another marker of slavery in the history of humankind. Right now, as I speak, the state Senate is in lockdown, where actually it was up until just a few minutes ago, which it adjourned until a vote will be taken tomorrow morning on an issue. Opponents of freedom tomorrow are busing in 15,000 people from out of state, from Wisconsin, Ohio, and elsewhere, to oppose right-to-work legislation in Lansing. We know that it's a contentious issue, and I would invite those watching and those here to please pray for our leadership and for the safety of all who are in our capital at this critical time. It takes courage. This board showed that courage in July of 2011 with support of the effort, which is now being finally acted upon in Lansing. This board exhibited leadership and made a difference by setting an example followed by more than a dozen other counties in this state. And for that, I thank you.
Any other public comment? Ross?
Yeah, I would just like to point out that the action that was referenced by Commissioner Gilman was not a unanimous action of this board, although it was a majority action.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, seeing none, we have an agenda before you. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a
Move to
motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Inman, supported by Gilman, to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. We have no special orders of business, so Jackie, will you read the consent calendar, please?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. 1, letter from area agency requesting reappointment of Jim Pasco. 2, Commission on Aging report. 3, Veteran Services monthly activity for October 2012. B, approval. 1, fiscal year 2012 through 2013, Michigan Department of Community Health Comprehensive Planning, Budgeting and Contracting Agreement Amendment Number 1. And 2, non-community water agreement renewal.
Having heard the consent calendar, is there any item the public wishes to have pulled? Any member or board member wishes to have? Herb?
Motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Support.
Motion by Lemkool, supported by Thomas, to approve the consent calendar as presented. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Henschel?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Felice?
Yes.
Gilman?
Yes.
Chairman Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am. Motion carries. This brings us to the Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office, and the first order is the medical service contract for the jail. Captain Hall also wanted to do another little thing, so you...
I'm going to stand up, if that's all right.
You're going to make sure the microphone's kind of close here.
I'm going to stand up, if that's all right, and talk loudly.
There you go.
I'm Tom Bensley, Grand Traverse County Sheriff. With me tonight is Corrections Officer Mark Grant, also known as Captain Mark Grant, Michigan Army National Guard. Mark started with the Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Office in the Corrections Division in 2006. And in January of 2006, in July of 2006 through October of 2007, 16 months, he spent in Baghdad, Iraq, and served as a platoon leader with the 46th Military Police Company. From July 2008 until December of 2008, 6 months, he was deployed to southern Iraq and northern Kuwait. And from September 2011 until September of 2012, 13 months, he was deployed to southern Afghanistan and served as a troop commander. I would just like to publicly acknowledge and thank Captain Grant for his service, not only to the Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Office, but to the citizens in Grand Traverse County and the citizens of the United States for his service, not only with our office, but as a captain with the Michigan Army National Guard. And I thought you would like to know that also. So, thank you. That just shows you what kind of outstanding people we have at the Sheriff's Office. Not only are they committed to the citizens of this county, but also the United States. And Captain Hall is next on the agenda with the Jail Medical Services contract. It's all yours.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mark.
We had a long-standing joke, every time we got Mark trained, he redeployed someone. We had to start all over again. We hope to have him back for quite a while this time. I'm Bob Hull, I'm the jail administrator, Grand Traverse County. The reason I'm before you tonight is for our medical service contract, which expires February 28th. In your packet, I gave you a brief history of well, first of all, where we're at with the contract, what the current contract consists of, then a brief history of our medical services throughout the years. Some of the reasons we moved back in March 2010 to a managed health care, some of you recall, included standardized policies. We're now in line with state and federal mandates. State and federal mandates concerning medical services in the jail. The big improvement was the liability protection shifted when we moved. We now have better training for the medical staff. It's just better organized. And it now meets 100% of all the state and federal guidelines. The process that we went through was very similar to what we went through with the last round of bidding that we did with the food service. We solicited all the vendors that we could for the last year. We go to conferences and we find vendors that are in the medical services field, and we ask them if they'd be interested. If they do, we get their information. We put them on our bidder list, our vendor bidder list. So we sent out 8 requests for proposals, and we also advertised in the Record Eagle twice. We had a pre-bid conference that was mandatory because we wanted to make sure everybody knew what we had for a medical facility in the jail. Only 2 vendors showed up out of that group, and those are the same 2 that submitted proposals for us. We had a evaluation team that consisted of 5 correction staff that sat down and evaluated with a score sheet and actually scored each of the proposals. And then we met as a team and reached a consensus as to who was the best and why. We contacted the references. The one company only has 2 facilities in the state of Michigan. The other company has 37 facilities in 31 different counties. We just picked arbitrarily 2. In fact, we made sure we picked 2, not the 2 that they recommended we contact. We picked 2 of the other 35 and contacted them. Everybody is really happy with the services they get, but each one is like comparing apples to oranges. Each facility is using their medical program slightly different. Some of them only have a doctor, some use health department nurses, some don't use the nurses. They use a different company to provide nursing and another company to provide the doctor. Some are very complex. The evaluations, I gave you a summation of the evaluations that we did and the comparisons between both vendors. On page 5 in your packet was a vendor comparison of the main issues that we were concerned with. We analyzed the cost, and the costs are basically real close. If you look at the breakdown between the 2 vendors, one vendor is slightly higher, but they have the other vendor that's lower has a lower cap by $10,000. In other words, they thought that they could maybe keep the cost around $75,000. And if it goes over that, we start paying extra. So the other one said, we'll cover up to $85,000, you get it back if we don't spend it, so they're both the same. And the other one the lower one had 1 less nurse in their staffing plan. But you put all that together and they're about the same. The main cost differences that we're seeing now are involving the health care needs of the inmates. What are they going to the hospital for? What type of services are they receiving? And that's what's been driving up the budget over the last 3 years. We've had inmates that have had surgeries. One had a cancer surgery that we were responsible for. One had heart problems. We had 2 that got into a fight and ended up having fractured orbital sockets that they had to have their face reconstructed. Of course, we went after restitution for both of those, but that's still outstanding. We're never going to see that. Those are some of the things. Plus, we have inmates that come in with HIV, other critical issues that are not being taken care of on the street. And a lot of that is because of the current economic situation in society. Some of these people do not have any hospital care or doctor care, medical care of any kind. By the time they get into the jail, their conditions are acute and we have to stabilize them. And sometimes that means hospitalization. Those costs are impossible to predict. Depends on who gets arrested and what they have. So that's what's been driving up the costs. However, this particular company that we're dealing with now is doing an excellent job in our estimation as far as controlling costs, controlling medications, controlling what services are given to the inmate. It's only what's absolutely necessary. They're not trying to be a fix-all. They're trying to stabilize and treat.
Captain, do you keep track of how many of these costs are pre-adjudicated?
Well, if we're talking about the new Medicare laws, or the Medicaid laws that are coming out, we're watching that, and yeah, we do have a handle on that, too.
Do you have a rough percentage of how much of our costs are?
Not off the top of my head. I'd hate to give you a number. The last time I talked with our medical department, I think it was around 15%. It could be off a little bit, and I'd hate to quote that.
Okay.
But we're watching that because of the new health care laws. It does open up some of that for a certain segment of our population that reach the financial requirements. They may be eligible for Medicaid. We're watching that.
And for everyone else, we're talking about it, when someone goes to jail, before they're tried and convicted, they're considered pre-adjudicated, and there might be some conditions where Medicaid would pay those expenses, and the county would not have to. So, thank you.
You're welcome. On page 6, we did a conclusion in our recommendation, and page 7 is the resolution that we're asking the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners to award the jail medical services contract to correctional health care companies. That's our current vendor for the next 3 years.
Bob, how does this cap of $85,000 compare to our current cap? Because we're over the current cap in this budget year.
The current cap was based on a best guess by this company because we had in-house standards before and they had no real clue other than what we were actually spending for medications and hospital care. They didn't know if the care, the best way to put it, they didn't know if the care that was being provided by our in-house program would be the same as they would deem necessary to provide. So they came in and we gave them all of our information 3 years prior, and they came up with a cap of $51,300. That was through their
But we've been over the cap each of the
We've been
3
over
years
each of
during
the
that
3 years.
contract.
That's correct. The cap was set too low.
Right. And then one of the other things that we've talked about, I think each year, it was the cost of particularly name brand psychotropic drugs. And then I'm assuming that we haven't cured that problem yet.
You're correct.
No, that's my discussion with community mental health regularly.
That opens up a whole different door.
That's actually in Bob Cooney's hands. We had a little discussion between CMH's attorneys and our board attorney, which is Bob Cooney, the prosecutor, or the incoming prosecutor. And that kind of got tabled, and I think the ball's in Bob's court, so feel free to push on him.
We'll keep pushing.
Okay.
Been doing it for 10 years, 12 years, 14 years, whatever. Larry?
I would move that we authorize a contract to Correctional Health Care Companies, Inc. for 3 years, beginning March 1st, 2013, and ending February 28th of 2015, at a base contract cost of $404,791.32.
Support.
Motion by Fleece, supported by Henschel. Further discussion. Ross?
Yeah, Captain, I had, this cap is for both pharmaceuticals and any hospitalizations and so
That's
forth?
correct.
Okay. So obviously, we seem to be about, like, what, roughly $100,000 over the cap each of the last 3 years?
We're projecting we're between 90 and 95,000 over the cap each year.
Okay. And is there any hope or thought that that may go down, or is it just pretty much based on the, the chances we take with the population we have?
Yes and yes. It's based on the chances you run into with the population that comes in and what happens to them prior to getting into the jail and what happens when they're in the jail. We are hoping that some of this stabilizes, and we are the yes to the hope part, we're hoping that it comes back down under the 85,000 cap. We're paying for it either way, whether it's below the cap or above the cap, you're paying for it anyway. It's just whether or not it's spread out evenly across the 12-month monthly payments, or whether you exceed the cap and now you start getting monthly reconciliations.
Well, I mean, it's a budgeting question, really.
Yes.
Okay. And I assume that the other company that bid on this couldn't offer any more hope or, idea that they could do any better job of controlling that than, what is it?
CHC is...
CHC, right.
No.
Jason?
Do we have any state revenues or grants or anything that's paying for this right now or covering any of this at this
Not
point?
that I'm aware of.
So we're picking up the bill. Are we itemizing any of the costs of the given health care and then adding it to their owed monies?
Yes.
When they leave?
We get, every time an inmate receives medical services of any kind, whether it's just to see the nurse or see the doctor or to have medications or actually have x-rays or lab work or anything, all of that is itemized and sent through our billing department, and it's billed, charged right to the inmate.
And I throw this out there as a hyper-theoretical. We have work release where they can go out and try to produce, be somewhat productive and pay their bills and what have you, and then also get a little time outside of the bars, so to speak. Would it be at all possible, and again, I throw this out there as outside of the box, would it be at all possible to possibly have like a furlough, a medical furlough, that allows them to go out, seek medical care on certain things, maybe be tethered, but then whatever medical care, we're not going to be responsible for it then?
We do that now, Commissioner. Okay. If an inmate presents a medical issue and we take them up to the hospital and it looks like they're going to need extensive care, extended care, whatever, we've called judges at 3:30 in the morning on a Sunday morning, and they've authorized immediate furloughs or immediate bonds, reductions or whatever, and the billing stops. So where we can, we've done
Excellent.
this.
I commend you on that. Then I think that is great.
I commend the judges for letting us call them.
Yeah. Thank you.
And answering their phone.
Yes. But in some cases, there was one instance just in the last year where we had 3 serious felons up at Munson at the same time, and an associated unrealized cost to this is the fact that I had to have an officer in each wing of the hospital guarding them 24/7. So.
Just a quick follow-up question. Is there, with the protocol with your administrative staff and this organization, that when an individual comes in and gets booked, if they have admitted taking certain medications and/or is at a certain level of intoxication, that they would automatically go to the hospital?
They automatically go to the hospital.
Okay, all right, that's all I need to know. Right, okay.
Further questions? We have a motion on the floor to approve the contract as recommended by Captain Hall. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good job, Captain.
Thank you.
This brings us to Commission on Aging. Thanks, Bob.
Wow. Yeah, wow.
Same thing.
Hi, Georgia Dura, Grand Traverse County Commission on Aging, and with me I have
Stacy Isles, Commission on Aging Board Member.
and Holly DeWalt's here too. Holly actually prepared and put all 3 of these bids out, so she's here too to answer any questions. The first item is on-call contract services for January 2013 through December 2014. We sent out packets October 17th to 14 companies with a due date of November 7th to request bids for in-home on-call services. And what that means is when employees can't work, either they're on a medical leave, vacation, holidays, and we can't find other staff to pick up hours, we contract with private companies to work those hours so our clients don't have to go without services. A legal notice was placed in the Traverse City Record Eagle, which ran for 2 days. Bid packets were received from 5 companies, and those companies were In-Home Healthcare, Comfort Keepers, Harbor Care Associates, Senior Helpers of Northern Michigan, and Bright Star Life Care. Our current total budget was $9,500 for 2013. In-Home Healthcare Services offered the lowest per-hour fee and indicated that they are able to meet all our required specifications. They do not, however, offer foot care services, so in that case, Comfort Keepers did offer foot care services at the lowest bid and received the highest points on our scoring grid. So therefore, we selected 2 vendors, In-Home Healthcare as our primary in-home service provider with exception of foot care, and Comfort Keepers would be our foot care provider and our backup in-home services provider, because on several occasions, the primary provider has not been able to meet our needs. So we've often selected 1 backup and sometimes 2 backups. Commission on Aging reviewed these, I'm thinking it was at their December meeting, and approved In-Home Health Care as the primary provider with Comfort Keepers as the backup provider and the foot care provider.
Jason?
Do we need, I mean, is this not something that's within their purview to take care
I
of?
believe we have to sign the contract.
We have to sign the contract, okay.
Herb?
So,
Yeah, we're an advisory, they are an advisory committee to us, and they're advising us to go ahead and pass this. That's why.
The contract is with Grand Traverse County, it is not with the commission.
Is there a reason why you didn't go with a 3-year contract on this? I mean, it seems like a lot of work by the staff to have to go out for bids and be able to do that, and whether or not prices could be any better if you had a 3-year contract instead of a 1-year. And is there a renewal on this?
This is a 2-year contract,
It's a 2-year contract.
January
Yeah, I
13th
know,
through
but-
December 14th.
Yeah, but it just,
The reason why we don't normally do a 3-year contract on some of these are because sometimes our costs will go down if we bid it out again, and sometimes the vendor just doesn't work out. They can't, usually they can't meet our need, and so then we have to drop down to the 2nd or the 3rd. So, sometimes the vendors are really great about being the backup, and other times, we have a harder time.
is there an exit on these contracts? So in other words, can you cancel the contract in 30 days?
Yeah, I think all the county contracts say that,
All right.
so.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed contract after review by the county prosecutor for form.
So moved.
Motion by Henschel, supported by Thomas. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Thank you. The second item that Commission on Aging bid out was Community Relations Services for year 2013 through 2015, which is a 3-year contract. At the request of the Commission on Aging Board, staff sent out requests for bids for Community Relations Services for 13 through 15. Bids are mailed out to 26 companies from the county vendor list, and all the counties that we get that apply to us, we add to the county vendor list. The bids are sent out September 12th with a deadline of October 3rd. A legal notice was also placed in the Record Eagle. A pre-bid conference was held September 26th at the Commission on Aging office. 2 prospective bidders attended Greenlight Marketing and Lawton Gallagher Group, who is currently our provider. Bids were received from 3 companies, Greenlight Marketing at $90 per hour, the Intelligence Agency at $75 per hour, and Lawton Gallagher Group at $75 per hour. Our current budget for 2013 was approved by the Commission on Aging, not the county board yet, at $15,000, and the amount had not yet been determined for 2014, 2015. But our board, Commission on Aging Board, had asked that we continue to budget $15,000 each year for those services. Other concerns, Lawton Gallagher Group has worked for us for, we determined it was 6 years, and they've done a great job for us, met our needs, done what we've asked them to do. He doesn't come when we don't need him to come because we pay by the hour, so if we don't want him to be at a meeting, he doesn't come to the meeting. Commission on Aging Board approved awarding the bid to Lawton Gallagher Group November 7th at their board meeting. It should be noted that Intelligence Agency had a score and hourly fee equal to Lawton Gallagher Group, but the board decided to stay with Lawton Gallagher to to save the cost of transferring our design work and the hours that we would need to bring them back up to speed, and in regard to projects that the COA is currently working on. So the Commission on Aging Board and staff recommend Lawton Gallagher Group, one of the two equal lowest bidders, to provide community relations services for years 2013 through 15.
Commissioner Inman.
Georgie, just give me a little briefing on this, if you could. This is something that you have in place right now, and what was Jim McGee doing? I thought he was doing some marketing for you at a lower cost and assisting you with materials and brochures and stuff, but...
He sells us products that cost, like promotional items we
Yes.
take to
promotional
different events
items.
that we go to. So he'll sell us pens,
okay.
T-shirts for our
Gotcha.
chore guys, hats for our chore
Okay,
guys.
so they were providing you with like brochures, design and those kinds
Yep.
of things in public?
Oh.
So they would be distributed around the community?
Lawton Gallagher?
That kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Is that what they were doing? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And media releases and like any kind of, like we have new board members coming, he'll do the media releases, he'll shoot pictures. We have Baskets of Bounty happening on Friday, he'll come and shoot pictures and do media releases for that.
Were they in a function of being a function of providing public information?
And what,
You know, if the press called and wanted information, or
they usually call me and talk to me.
they usually did? Okay.
But he has a close connection with a lot of the media outlets, like the Record Eagle and the TV stations. He knows a lot of the people that work there, so he can help us get the word out about things
Well, but
more than I could.
Fortunately, for the most part, it's the media product that they're putting out for you in the brochures and everything else.
And DVDs, we make a DVD. He helps facilitate that process. He
See,
might
I
not
just want
actually
to
do it.
clarify that, you know, my definition of a community relations function is different than providing media, brochures and those kinds of things. And just as a real side note, that, you know, we have a position in the health department that supposedly is a outreach communication person that, you know, isn't filled right now, or is filled, I don't recall. And there's been ongoing discussions at the county board level about all the interest that we're receiving from some of our departments, saying that they'd like to have some of those services too, to help with press releases, with public information and communication, so they can get it out as to what their department is doing and have access to information, that kind of a thing. So, you know, at some point in time, you know, we should talk about at our strategic meeting, if that's important to the board next year, whether we should be looking at some kind of communication, public information person that a lot of counties and cities have. And in some cases, I've seen at NACO where counties our size and our cities our size split one person because, you know, and then it really works out well. I just bring that up. It's a possibility in the future, but if they're just doing brochures for you and kicking stuff out, then that's fine.
Jason.
Well, why do we have to advertise that we provide services? It would be my main concern with any media relations efforts. I think if people need services, they're certainly going to come looking for them. We do have a website. I understand that much of the constituency for the Commission on Aging is not probably surfing the web.
Although it's growing.
Although I mean, but the thing is, it just seems like we put a lot of effort into advertising so that we can grow our programs. And I think it's important that if there is a need for something, that we take a look at it and we address it as that need arises. But to advertise that we do something and perhaps build a customer base that's larger than it might otherwise be, I just can't see spending money in that way personally.
If I might address this, Commissioner Gilman, we are not advertising our services at this particular point in time because obviously we have wait lists. So why increase the demand when we have a wait list? But I think that it still is important to get the COA name and image, continuously in front of the public. I mean, the last time that the millage was passed, I think it passed at 80-some-odd%.
81%.
81%,
crushed
which was
it. Yeah,
very, outstanding. We have to thank the taxpayers. So there are many things that go into what the community relations does. Part of this is with Lawton Gallagher. For example, one of the things that was recently done is we did some, was it patriotic service things with WTCM?
Oh, for the veterans.
For the veterans, and it didn't cost us anything, but that was something that Lawton Gallagher was able to help us with. And it's just, it was a good, promotional thing that, of course, it cost whatever we paid Lawton Gallagher to help us with it, but it wasn't something that we paid for relative to WTCM. So those are some of the kinds of things that they're helping us with. And in terms of the $15,000, if we don't need it, we of course would not spend it.
We've never spent 15. I think last year, we were probably at 4,000 something. This year, I think we're 4, 5, 6 range. I haven't looked recently, but we've never spent even 10,000.
Different years necessitate different communications. So also contained within community relations are things like the newsletters that are sent out between, the Commission on Aging, in-home services, and the senior center. So there's a lot of things that go into that. And for example, this past year, Lawton Gallagher assisted us and advised us as we were trying to merge those papers together to make more of a cohesive unit between the Senior Center Network and Commission on Aging and Home Services. So there are different things like that. It's not just advertising COA services.
One last question. When is the next expected millage request going to be made?
2010, so it'd be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
2016.
We start usually a year in advance because we have to fundraise and form the committee and file all the papers, and how that goes. So,
Motion to approve the recommendation of Lawton Gallagher for community relations for the Commission on Aging for 3 years.
Support. Motion by Limco, supported by Thomas. Ross?
It's still not clear to me exactly what your community relations people do. Could you be a little more specific?
well, for instance, right now, he's working on our web design. We have a web page, and it's out there, but it's not user-friendly, it's not customer-friendly. I don't feel that it's easy to use. It's not real visually pleasing. So he's working on a design that will be easier to use, that will be user-friendly, senior-friendly, and that's his expertise. It's not our expertise. We're not designers, we're not artists. So although our staff has done a pretty good job, I just don't think it's where it should be. And we're also working with the county. Dave has started a group for the whole county web page, and we're blending in with that group too, but he's working on that. We're going to start on a technology project for our board and our staff, so he'll probably be doing some behind-the-scenes work to help us with that too. It's more project-specific, but for instance, if we had an issue with a client or something, he might help us work through that with the newspaper. If there's bad news on the front page or something, he would advise us through that.
It could be as simple as, we've had a stand-up banner design for when we go to like the expo?
Yeah,
the Senior
Expo.
So that we're recognized when we're there, that, we're here, this is the information that we have to put forth to the community, and so different things like that. It's a wide gamut of things that Lawton Gallagher provides. It doesn't run the whole extent of what community relations, that subgroup within the Commission on Aging does, but they assist.
Well, it just seems to me, as has already been pointed out, the county itself doesn't have, a public information officer or a community relations advisor or consultant, and at a time when every time you've been in here for the last year, you've been complaining about how broke you are, and you're cutting programs and raising fees, I certainly can't, myself, I can't vote for this at a time when, when you can't even deliver the services to the seniors that you're supposed to be delivering.
Further discussion? Well, I guess my comments are, and I truly believe that the county is moving toward a community information officer or position. I think we're getting closer and closer all the time. You know, the idea that 3 weeks ago we're having a discussion because we won't fund $20,000 for Meals on Wheels, but yet now we'll fund $15,000 for someone to promote ourselves. And I have a problem with that. So roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Inman?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Richardson?
No.
Thomas?
I only seconded it to get it on the floor, no.
Please?
Yes.
Gilman?
No.
Henschel?
Yes.
Chairman Wheelock?
No. Motion fails. We can have an opportunity to have this discussion again in the future, but as far as tonight, motion has failed. The next item is the contracting for home choice services for 2013.
At the request of the Commission on Aging Board, staff sent out bid requests for one of our 6 home chore routes, which equals 1.8 FTEs, to identify costs of contracting these services, as well to test contracting. Both employees covering this route left employment with the COA in 2012 mid-year, so there was no unemployment costs. No new clients have been added since these 2 employees left, and our wait list for home chore services is growing. Some county commissioners felt that the COA should contract services, so to do some, as do some COA board members. Bid packets were sent out September 12th with a return date of October 3rd. A legal notice was also placed in the Traverse City Record Eagle. 3 companies bid: Butler's Dock and Hoist at $146,325 annual cost, Happy Harry's Maintenance at a cost of $178,175 annual cost, and R.W. Pop Excavating, Inc. at a cost of $182,850 for snow removal only. Budget concerns: no funds were budgeted for these contract services or for the 1.8 FTEs in 2013, so funds will need to be shifted from the fund balance if the 6th route is added back. That was part of our cost-cutting measures at the request of Commission on Aging Board, and to look at cutting costs because of our millage revenue decreasing. The lowest, and then we did 3 calculations. We did one, the lowest bid if we use multiple vendors, meaning that was the lowest possible contract cost, was $142,575. The lowest bid by a single vendor was $146,325. The in-house cost, which is an estimate for 2013, was $108,540. And there's a note: if all home chore services are contracted, additional cost savings could be experienced annually, meaning we have a storage unit that we store equipment in at $2,700, that would be eliminated. We have garage utilities at $2,400, that would be eliminated, and possibly a portion of the supervisory costs would be eliminated. Other concerns: both Butler's Dock and Hoist and Happy Harry's Maintenance are located in Benzie County. R.W. Pop is located in Grand Traverse County, but they only bid on snow removal, and we need services for all seasons. Human Resources provided the COA with the personnel costs, but Jen Seaman was informed of the process, attended the committee meetings where we discussed this. She also advised that our in-house costs were estimated a little high because I used the salaries and benefits of the employees that were currently employed, and if we hired someone, they would come in at a lower salary level. But I just felt to be fair, and there is nothing that says we wouldn't hire a county employee that's already working here at a higher salary, so I just used those current personnel costs. And the recommendation from the Commission on Aging Board and staff is to recommend keeping services in-house at the current staffing level of 6 FTEs.
What size was the route you were bidding out? Were you bidding out like 100 lawns?
I think it was 75. 75 clients.
Did you consider splitting it up? Because a lot of lawn care companies are perfectly capable, but not of doing that big of a job, perhaps.
You mean, I don't know what you mean.
Did you consider bidding out
Half and half.
20 lawns 20 lawns, 15 lawns?
Well, I think we kind of left that up to them to bid on what they could bid on. No, we didn't do it that way.
So they were allowed to bid on a number of lawns? Like, you're bidding out for 75 lawns, and they could have bid for, I'll do 20 for this?
They could have, but when we scored them out, they might not have gotten as high of a score. I mean, when we started talking about this, we figured, we've talked to contractors a number of times about home chore, and every time we talked to them, everyone that we've talked to said they couldn't take on as large a workload as we have. So we figured if we did home chore contracting, we would have to have a pool of vendors, and each pool would take on so many, and then if one vendor fell by the wayside, we'd have other vendors to back that up. So, but I don't think that we bid it that way.
Ross?
Georgia, so, like, let's just taking one of these bids, let's say Butler's Dock and Hoist. So what are we getting, if we were to hire them, what would we be getting for the $146,000 a year?
We got lawn mowing services, and I believe it was once every 10 days. Let me see here. Find the bid. Thank you. For Butler's Dock and Hoist, mowing was $25 per visit one time per week, $35 per visit if they did it every other week. Leaf removal was $150 per visit, and snow removal was $30 per visit. So whether they had a 200-foot driveway or a 2-foot driveway, they still charge us the same rates, and same with the yards. We have an agreement with our clients that we will cut up to an acre of grass. After that, you know, we don't do that. We don't do more than an acre, because we mainly do it for the safety of the client, to keep them in their own homes. So more than an acre is kind of like a hayfield, so.
Yeah, that seems a bit much.
Happy Harry's mowing was $35 a visit, leaf removal was $100 a visit, snow removal was $40 a visit.
I guess my question is, so the same 75 clients get, they get the lawn mowing, and then they get the fall cleanup, and then they get the snow removal?
Yes,
So
they
that's-
get all those services for a whole year.
Okay, I mean, did you ever think about separating the, I guess it probably doesn't matter on this. I was going to say separating the lawn mowing from the, from the snow removal, but I guess if they're just bidding it per piece and...
Well, Pop did just bid on snow removal, and we would have considered that, except their bid was higher than the other ones.
Yeah, so how many, $182,000, how many places was that?
75.
75?
Same bunch.
Yeah.
So they charge more just for snow removal than everybody else charged for snow removal and? Based on, what were the parameters for snow removal? Snowfall over a certain amount, or?
I don't know, Holly, is it over, was it 2 inches, 4 inches? Do you want to come up and, maybe you can, Holly's put out the bids, and she could probably answer your questions better. I know, here, let Holly sit down.
Holly DeWalt, Commission on Aging, Deputy Director. Yes, the snow removal is only provided if there is 2 inches or more of snow.
Okay. And how many times were people estimating that we'd have snow over 2 inches?
We did an estimate for snow removal based on the, let me take a look here. We figured November through March, which would be 22 weeks. So if we did it 2 times a week for each client, that would be 44 visits per year.
It's twice the average in our community.
Pardon me?
That's twice the average in our community.
Yeah.
Especially now.
22 times a year.
I plowed for 44 years, and I never had a winter like that, and February is usually dry. You don't get much in February, but those numbers are Well, I guess I just
Well-
made a big mistake for 44 years.
And so, well, those are the parameters that we used to, so that we could assign a number to,
Okay, but the bids were based on so many dollars per snow.
correct.
So in other words,
Doesn't matter.
you weren't obligated to this amount of money, it's just that.
Correct.
Okay. See, my
So we-
point on it would be is that you're comparing an unknown amount against a known amount. The known amount being what it costs for 2 employees year-round, and then you're saying, well, we're going to, do this so many times, except that the likelihood of actually hitting that seems pretty remote, to say the least. On your own lawn mowing, on the lawn mowing done by the Commission on Aging, how often do you mow lawns?
Once a week for the people that sprinkle, and once about every 2 weeks for the people that don't.
Okay. And what percentage of the people that you mow have sprinkler systems?
I don't know that, quite a few, but
It's, we estimated out of the 75 clients, we said only 10 of those clients would be getting it one
Once a
time a
week?
week.
Okay.
Correct.
Commissioner Fleece?
I'm a little surprised by the bids, and I would never support bidding it out based on the 2 bidders are not even in our county. And then you have the snow removal issue, and being in business, particularly year-round, I'm familiar with older people and their habits when it comes to snow blowing or snow plowing. And believe you me, if you got 3 inches of snow, for the majority of them, they want it gone. They are petrified they're going to get locked in their homes. And when you look at the bids versus in-house, and she figured high on the in-house, according to my calculation, just for the lawn mowing, we're saving a minimum of $36,000 by keeping it in-house. Plus, Commission on Aging in the past has done an excellent job. And the clients they deal with are pretty fussy. So I would move that we go with their recommendation of the Commission on Aging Board and keep the services in-house at the current staffing levels of 6 full-time employees.
Second.
Further discussion. Herb?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with the in-house cost estimates when you say that you got 6 employees, plus their equipment, plus their housing.
this was just for the 1.8 FTEs.
I know.
That 108, okay,
But so you're just talking 1 employee here,
1.8.
1.8, so you got 2 employees,
2
basically.
employees, but one was part-time.
And their equipment, and you're only, and it's $100,000.
Because it was 1 truck,
Yeah.
2 mowers,
And that's including in your $108,000?
Yeah. And a portion of supervisory time, and gasoline, and small tools and supplies. I took a portion, I just basically took a 1/6 of all those costs and put it in, a 1/6 of our total cost and put it into this cost,
But you're using actual cost here,
this year's cost.
where you're talking about on the bids, that's projected cost.
Right.
So that projected cost actually could be less, like half. So you could be saving $25,000 a year by contracting, because of your projected cost is not apples to what you're actually getting. And when I look at this, I see a discrepancy in the bid documents, because when you put that out, it's not what you're doing, it's what you think might be done. And when you do that, you increase the cost to the contractor that says, I'm going to bid, you got me twice a week, you got once every week, I'm going to bid that on the number of times that you've given me, and that's why this cost is skewed. And it's not a true apples-to-apples cost. Sorry, it's not.
I'm not certain how we would, unless we went back to the previous year and looked at exactly.
That's what you got to bid on.
How many times we were out.
That's what
and
you should have
plowed.
bid on.
So we tried to then assess some parameters of, for instance, when the months where it might snow. And we did with the mowing, we did actually look at our client load to figure out how many people actually do one time a week mowing and how many people actually get it every other week. So we did with that. So we tried to get
The lawn mowing is pretty easy to be able to bid that out. The question is the snow plowing, and I think you're not bidding apples to apples on the snow plowing.
Jason?
Yeah, and that's ultimately
And
a
I
question that
think
I
that's
had as
skewed.
well. Because, I mean, obviously, you have two people, well, we're employing 1.8 FTEs. That's a static, whereas these other ones are, who knows? It could be a gamble.
Sure.
By going with them as well. But like last year, I don't think we could really look at last year, because last year was pretty slight, as anybody who sells snow blowers knows.
Well, see, in the last 11 years, we've had, by Northern Michigan standards, one normal winter, if you will, and that winter, there was no snow.
There was snow. The other way around.
No, in that, there was no storms, okay? No winds, no drifts, just
Normal
snow. The other 10 years out of the 11, the last 11, were much like last year. But, and there wasn't any snow. And I don't think the public or some members on this board realize the impact of not having snow. And I remember a year, because I used to get to roam the city streets here for 29 years, and I remember a year that the county, or the college contracted with a major firm in our community for snow blowing, and they did it on a per-time basis. And we had a winter, not anything like we had last year, but it was significantly less than it was previous. So the following year, they contracted for the season. Let me tell you, they lost both times, you know, big time. And so you might as well go to the casino and roll the dice when it comes to snow blowing.
Well, and that's kind of the point. I'm going to support this myself, and I'm going to support it because I think it is a reasonable cost that you've built in for these particular projects that you're doing. I do think, though, that each year it should be relooked at, and I you know, basically build the historical fact into it, and you know, see if it's worth going there.
See, another thing that's really important when it comes to contracting it, with their employees, like last year, there wasn't any snow. In January and February, they could actually go out, their employees, because they were sitting there with twiddling their thumbs, there's no snow to do, and they could do the yard cleanups. If you've got R.W. Pop bidding the snow blowing, he's going to get his money, and you're not going to get any yard cleanups. See, so there's advantages to keeping it in-house, significant advantages in my opinion.
I guess one other question that I'd have is this, the part-time person that you have, this part-time person doesn't necessarily have to be sitting doing nothing, correct?
No one's
Send 'em
sitting.
home.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, so we might not even reach that full 1.8 FTE if that's the case.
What we talked about doing, if we ever hire any more, is hiring seasonal people in the winter, and they come into work when it snows, and they don't work when it doesn't. We'll probably end up with some unemployment costs, which we were trying to avoid, but Jen had suggested that to us, and that was going to be our next step if we ever decide to expand that service again. We'd be looking more at that type of thing.
Okay, dokie.
Rob?
I just look at this and I really think we need to think outside the box a little more. And, I've shared this story before, I'll share it again. When I was 16, I started a little lawn mowing business in a trailer park, and I, just counting up my time, and with efficiencies, I could do it for about $6 a lawn. And then, come behold, I started losing my clients. They had this thing called Commission on Aging, which I'd never heard before. It was coming in and mowing the lawn, and you start looking at the cost, and it cost them about $35 of taxpayer dollars to mow the same lawn I would mow for $6. But I tell you, I look at this, and there's no way I could have took on this contract, but a portion of it I might have been able to, geographically located. I just think we need to take another look at this contracting, because my experience is a private person putting in their own sweat and equity can do things cheaper than a big organization if there is a reward possible to them, such as seeking out efficiencies. So I'm not going to support the motion.
Ross?
I do support the motion, and I do understand that what's being proposed here is a way to deal with these two people who have left employment, right? That is correct?
Well, we were trying to see
You're
how
talking about one route, right?
one route, and we were trying to see test contracting, because our boards
Yeah.
talked about it, county boards talked about it, and that was going to be our way to test it. And I think everyone assumed that the bids would come in lower than our costs were going to be, so.
But I would definitely, you're still going to have your six employees, which is what, three routes, right?
6 routes.
Oh, it's 6 routes? Okay.
I think it's 6, isn't
It
it?
is 6 routes, correct.
Okay. So what I would hope you would do is, take Commissioner Henschel's suggestion and see if you can slice and dice it more, and, assuming that you have funds available, you can start maybe working on some of that, some of that wait list that's accumulated, and
Yeah,
seems to keep on getting bigger.
We're talking about looking at contracting for waitlist people until they can move into the other services.
Right.
Looking at some kind of option like that for next year.
Yeah.
Could I add just one quick comment? I just wanted to let you know that during the winter months, when there isn't snow, we have a program set up where all of our clients or anyone in Grand Traverse County can call in and get on kind of what we're calling an odd jobs list. And we probably have about over 100, 150 people on there who maybe need help cleaning out their garage or putting away their Christmas decorations. And when there's downtime, that's what the home chore guys are doing. So I just wanted to let you know that, so we have it established so they don't need to sit around doing nothing during that downtime. So I thought that was an important point to make.
Well, I think, obviously because of timing, we're going to most likely, even though we're not all going to be happy about it, going to have to approve this agreement tonight. But, at least from my perspective in the future, if you're going to talk about bidding out these types of services, we should take a real hard look at your bid packages, because your number of snowplows is at least double any year in the last 20 years in Grand Traverse County, and your numbers, because of that, are all skewed. They're terribly skewed. But, obviously, we have to make sure that we have the snow plowing done Thursday night if it decides to snow 4 to 6 inches like they're talking about maybe. And as far as for an individual, I know a lot of people that snowplow all winter long, and to have a workload for one route of 75 driveways is pretty much unheard of. You can't get through 75 driveways. It's not even possible. So, I think there's a real problem with the criteria used to do your bid. Now, the one thing that I'm a little concerned about with the comment that Commissioner Richardson made is that you're down 2 people. Now, I'm assuming that because the way this says is with your staffing levels, does that mean you intend to fill those 2 positions?
No, they've been removed from the staffing plan, and they're not included in our budget for 2013. So if we decided to contract, we were going to have to take that amount of funding from the fund balance to contract, and that was going to be a test. If we didn't contract, our plan was not to add any new employees next year. If we do take any people off the wait list, I think our board would probably be leaning more towards an on-call contracting kind of thing, and then as we have openings in our program, they move into that. We tested that a couple years ago. It seemed to work pretty well, so but no talk has been done with our board. I mean, we just hashed that over at our last meeting as conversation.
Okay, we have a motion by Fleece, support. Do you have something else? Go ahead.
I got a question.
Yes.
Based on your comments. This is a real route, correct?
Yeah.
And you have 1.8 people, or 2 people, we'll say, that are going to do the 75 driveways. Would that be correct?
Yeah, they would have.
Well, if we approve keeping it in-house, that's what's going to happen, right?
No, we removed that route from our service list. So the clients were absorbed in, and as they were absorbed in, we didn't add any new clients. So our client load has gone down 75 clients. So that's what I'm saying. If we decided to contract, we were going to contract as a test to see how it worked. We were bidding it out to see how all that went. And so we were going to have to take the funds from the fund balance. We cut the funds as a cost-cutting measure. I mean, we were cutting our budget to balance.
The longer you talk, the least I trust what you're telling me here tonight, dear. Absolutely don't trust anything you're telling me about this issue.
And I don't know why.
Not at all.
Why not?
Because it doesn't make any sense. None
Can I-
whatsoever.
Could I help maybe clarify just a little
Sure.
bit with the routes? We currently have 6 plow trucks. We had 6 before the 1.8 FTEs left. So those, when the 1.8 FTEs left Commission on Aging, what has happened is those 75 people, we have pared down, and we actually are probably seeing more people than we actually can within our parameters right now. So we talk about that being the 6th route, but actually what has occurred is there have been an equivalent of 75 people that have come off all of the routes to make each route a little bit less because we have less individuals going out. And so with the 6 trucks, we had some of those staff, the .8 person and another person would go with another driver to do some of the plow or some of the shoveling while the other person was plowing. Does that help clarify?
So you do not, in fact, have 450 clients that you're telling me you're plowing?
Yes, we absolutely have that number of clients.
Actually, I think it was more like 475.
Well, that was
We
my
did.
question. How many?
Yes. 8
How
men.
many? And so you have roughly 475 clients that you're going to be plowing for?
Last year.
Last year.
This year, we cut back to I think it's 400, 410. We cut back 75 to cut costs.
Now you're making sense.
Yeah, so that maybe helps clarify it a little. So when it's not actually one whole route of 75 people that's being taken away or added. Those 75 people have been eliminated from all 6 routes, a few off of each route to make it equivalent. But we looked at this route and we looked specifically at South County, and that's about how many people we have in that area. That's how many people the 1.8 FTEs were able to service. So if that helps clarify it, I'm not sure.
Those routes that were eliminated, do we have any revenues from those routes?
Yeah, from those clients, we charge on a sliding fee scale. So
So the-
whatever they paid, I mean, each client paid something different. They could pay $1, they could pay $5, so
Do we have any idea what, if, based on what the in-house cost would be, what our revenue side would be?
well, it's kind of a wash, because whether a contractor, maybe I'm not understanding what you're asking, but whether a contractor does it or we do it, we're still going
If
to
we
bill
added those
them.
75 back, essentially that's what you're asking, is to add those 75 back?
No, we're saying right now, we're not going to do
Okay,
that.
we're not going to do that.
Because of our expected revenue decrease from the millage revenue going down. Our board did about 8 months' worth of projections and decided that we should start cutting costs. That was one of the things that we cut. But we've had so many people requesting that we look at contracting that instead of replacing those 2 positions last year, we cut the positions, but because of all the pressure, we decided that we would bid that out as a contract. And if we decide to contract, we would take the funds from the fund balance, and we would test that for a year to see how it worked.
Okay,
Commissioners, if I can try to clarify something. It's my understanding that these 75 people, we, in the past, have serviced up to an additional 75 people. These folks have fallen off through attrition, not needing snow plowing, moving out of the area, that sort of thing. So we haven't cut individuals that used to get snow plowing. These are folks that have fallen off the rolls that we have not replaced, okay? Because we lost the 2 employees, so we were not adding new clients onto the snow plowing. That's the difference. So what was looked at here is, okay, if we were to take snow plowing back up to the levels that we were at before, that would be an additional 75 individuals that were being serviced. And to do that, it would be 1.8 full-time, or 1.8 employees, or the equivalent contracting. And so that was what was being evaluated at that particular time. So no clients have been cut. It's just people are waiting for snow service that we're not adding on at this point.
What are we being asked for then?
You have a wait list then, right,
Correct.
Yes.
for snow plowing? See, because
Is a wait.
I'm also a little confused. I don't understand why if we would have approved the bids, why we would add off the wait list 75 additional clients and spend that kind of money.
We're not asking for approval. What we're saying is, we're not going to do that. We're recommending that we, at this particular point in time, that we don't add the additional services, that we don't contract this out at this particular point in time.
Just keep the 1.8.
Just keep the 1.8.
Just keep, as we
Yes.
are, service the current clients that we have with the current employees that we have,
With the,
and not contract out our current employees, just, you know, as is.
And we felt it important to bring our findings back to you because you knew that we were looking at this, but we're not recommending
And-
that we move forward with either.
And thank you for that. I understand it better.
understand it now.
Okay, and thank you for that.
I'm ready to vote.
We have a motion by Fleece, supported by Inman, to approve the recommendation to keep snow plowing and
At 6.
mowing in-house for the Commission on Aging for 2013. Any further discussion? Rob?
Just clarification, if this motion was to fail, then you would go out and try to rebid it in a different way, maybe get some better numbers?
If that's what you
I'm
asked
not
us to do, we
It's
would,
kind of too late to do that.
we would
Yeah,
have
snow
to
tomorrow.
have you, well, yeah,
Well-
it's not too late.
No, because they already have the staff, I mean, they're gonna keep on doing what they're doing anyways. But I think the message I want to send is I want you to keep looking for ways to innovate. Try, doing it, street it at the time, or, whatever, look for different ways, think outside the box. And I think the motion sends the message, keep status quo, and that's why I don't support the
No,
motion.
the motion, to correct you, is based on Commission on Aging's board. And I don't think we should take superintendent control and get into their daily business. If their board, which is 15 members, and they're doing the day-to-day business, recommends something, I think unless it's really askew, we ought to follow that recommendation, and that's exactly what my motion is.
Does this motion preclude them from doing that on their own?
What,
If they say,
Of course not. No.
because the motion is to not contract out? Or
no, the
motion is
motion
to
right
Just
here.
to keep in-house.
keep
services.
in-house staff as
Yeah,
current?
keeping services in-house at current staffing levels, which is 6 full-time employees in that division.
Okay.
That's
Well-
their recommendation.
Well, I'll support that, but I do want to encourage you to look for ways to innovate. There's got to be ways to make things work with contractors, vouchers. I know, I've had talks with Georgia that, sometimes your clients don't like it, but them liking it isn't necessarily the whole mission of the agency. The agency is to keep them in their home. So they might not, I want to drive a Lincoln, but I don't. I drive an old beat-up van, but it keeps me on the road, so.
But there's one important thing. 81% of the population, the voting population in Grand Traverse County endorsed the millage. And so that's a pretty strong message that they'd like to continue those services for our seniors. And I think we need to do that.
Commissioner Henschel, I can tell you, I can assure you that the board continues to look at ways to cut costs and innovative ways to provide services. So that is not off the table. We will continue to look at all of the ways that we provide service to make sure that it's efficient and cost-effective, and most importantly, that it really is servicing the needs of the seniors that we provide services to.
Roll call vote, please, Jackie.
Commissioner Lemkool,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yep.
Fleece,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes.
Chairman Wheelock.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thanks, Georgia.
Thank you.
Putting up
Wow. All right, bring us to the Health Department, the National Association of Counties Dental Program.
Wendy's excited.
You can blame this on me. You can blame it all on
I
me.
thought we did this already.
No, that was on the prescription programs. This is the dental program. Yeah. Mr. Chairman,
I just want to say thank you publicly to Wendy and her staff for what a great open house that they did yesterday. And it's nice to see that we've matched the quality of the staff to the quality of the facility that they're working in, and how thankful they are for the facility that we have been able to provide for them. And I just want to say thanks to your staff for doing what they're doing and how well they're doing it for our community.
I will pass it on, but also thanks to all the commissioners for the foresight, and Larry Inman for some very nice comments yesterday on the history. And I know everybody's thrilled to be there, and I had nothing to do with it except picking a few paint colors, but it is very nice to be able to provide
Nice
services to the community out of that building.
So the open house isn't tomorrow at 6?
It's yesterday.
Yes.
Yesterday. It was yesterday.
Thanks.
They originally sent it out
At least now we know why you weren't there.
Oh.
They changed it out to Tuesday.
Okay, I have it tomorrow.
Yeah, we
Can
held
you
it
get the correction
jointly
memo?
with Dental Clinics North. They couldn't be there on the 6th, so. Wendy Truitt, Health Officer, Grand Traverse County Health Department. I'm here to present, just at the request of Chairman Inman, an FYI, I guess, item on a dental program that the National Association of Counties offers. It's a discount card similar to a prescription discount card you may have heard in previous years. And it was something he heard about, I'm assuming at a conference or a meeting, and you
Yeah,
just
and I just
wanted me to
brought it
look
back for your
into it.
evaluation.
Yep. So I did look into it. You should have some of the details of it, but I'll try to go over the highlights. It's essentially a discount program that anybody is eligible for. There's no income requirements on it. And they pay an annual or a monthly fee. Equivalent for individuals, $59 a year, or for families, $69 per year. They get discounts at the time of service. It's for certain things that qualify, certain dental services or orthodontics. There's significant savings, 20 to 50%, depending on what the procedure is. And the plan can also complement existing health insurance plans the person may have. It's a way to access those who are underinsured or insured. It's not the same as the kind of programs that are offered towards Medicaid programs. Similar, but it's for a segment of the population that kind of is in a gap right now. I know when I kind of read the information, it sounds like a good plan, but I decided to look into what do we already have here, since we do have such a close relationship with Dental Clinics North, and part of the expansion of our building was to accommodate their additional request. So they also have a program. Kind of the difference, theirs is a lifetime cost of either $50 per year per person or $75 per person.
Wow.
I'm sorry, that's a lifetime cost, not an annual cost. But they do have income guidelines. So there's a maximum up to 200% of the federal poverty level, and it depends on family size. So I looked at utilization of the NACO prescription card just to try and get an idea of how popular that was. And in our county,
We have to footnote that we haven't put any effort into that because there was the marketing director for your department. The previous director had left when we initially started that program.
Okay.
So we never did any marketing or got it out to the community or did any promotions or anything like that. So we left it stagnant until you got on board and you can evaluate how you want to market that program.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
That's why nothing's going on with it.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Fair enough, but even so, the average right now is 23 users in our county per month, which it's pretty low. And there are also a lot of discount pharmacy offerings from, Walgreens, Walmart, Myers, things like that. And so that could be why. We certainly could market something like this with our outreach coordinator. There is no specific budget for the marketing, and our coordinator position is mostly and partly funded by some of the dental grants. So part of it is to promote that program to the citizens, but all the other programs that we offer. But dental services is one thing that comes up on the community health assessment every single time. I had a conversation with Herb Lemkool's wife, and she's at the Help Link, and that's one of their number one health issues that comes up. And I did have a meeting Monday with some of the dental leaders, Munson, Traverse Health Clinic, Dental Clinics North, and we discussed how we're going to fill the gap for the people who don't qualify for Medicaid, so they don't have insurance. Maybe they're working, but they don't have enough, or they don't qualify for insurance, and they don't have enough money, and they don't prioritize dental care. So that's something that this group is going to work towards. None of them felt that this was probably the best option. I mean, it's certainly something we can look into, and we could do a trial and kind of see if it's utilized. The biggest issue with these kind of programs is how many providers. It's the same issue we have with Medicaid. How many people actually will take it? And for this dental card, there's one provider in our county, and it's Aspen Dental Care. So that could be a limiting factor. Dental Clinics North, now that they're in an expanded space and have 3 additional chairs, can see at a minimum of additional 1,500 people per year, and they are open to, if the board wishes, to them exploring possibly changing some of their income guidelines to try and see some of the people who follow their current parameters. So right now, I'm just sort of bringing this item to you more as for information, let you ponder it a bit, and I'll report back once we have some continued dental. But if it's something you want to think of or have strong feelings on, I guess I'd like to know that.
Well, it was something that the National Association of Counties had just started to promote as a product for counties to deliver. I just brought it back as information if it's something that we would be interested or not interested in. And then had asked you to just, when you came on board, if you could just do an evaluation. And I would just rely on your recommendation if you feel that you've got the coverage with Dental Clinics North, or you probably would not be able to utilize the program, then I would just leave it to your recommendation.
I think with our partnership and our commitment with Dental Clinics North, and the fact that we're the largest clinic of their 21 and soon to be 22 clinics, I think we probably could better serve the citizens if we explore that route more. And also knowing that Traverse Clinic is applying to be an FQHC lookalike. So they will, and they currently have 4 dental chairs as well. So they would be able to help fill some of the gap too. And I think that's what's important is filling the gap.
Who is the one dental facility that takes this program?
Aspen Dental Care.
Aspen. That's a new office on Airport Road.
Yeah.
Ross?
Do you think it's possible that if we did adopt this NACO program, that more providers might come forward and participate, or do you think they're just not that interested?
I'd have to look more into what the reimbursement, usually with these, it's the reimbursement issue. Like Delta Dental has just been rolling out by county a new program for children. It's called Healthy Kids. And there's a 80% participation rate of dentists, which is very, very high for that program, but it's because it's a higher Medicaid reimbursement rate than the normal rate. So that's really the incentive, and that's really the challenge with discount programs, is a lot of time it's not worth to them. It doesn't always cover their costs.
Right. Jason? We have a new facility and a lot of new chairs and as you say, 1,500 minimum new availabilities throughout the year. State-of-the-art equipment, I've seen it when it was brand new and shiny and never used, which was really neat. So your recommendation is essentially, look, we've got a system that right now has track record and is proven, and now it has more ability. Do we need to go and look elsewhere? Not really, not so much. So you're recommending that we just continue to promote our dental clinic north.
And work with them to try and get them to expand some of their parameters that would, open it up to people who aren't under the 200% poverty level.
But the only reason I'm not saying we need to pursue it, but the only reason it's interesting is because it does not have income guidelines, whereas, the other programs we're talking about are obviously aimed at low-income people only, so that's all.
Yeah, my question here is whether or not Dental Clinics North would accept that as an insurance provider, if they would be one of those that would receive that for the NACO program. If Aspen's going to do it, would the dental clinic do it? I don't know.
I'm inclined to think we're better served, or our community is better served by working with Dental Clinics North to talk about the parameters by which they get paid. You know, we don't have residents in Grand Traverse County that are carrying around a NACO dental card. You know, we do have people in this community that have need for dental services. Let's work with the suppliers in our community, Dental Clinics North and others in the you know, professional community, to help to make sure that we provide service to as many people as we possibly can that need the service. I'm not sure there's any reason to start a new program. I think we work with the participants that we're working with and provide the best service we can to the community, and I think we're going to be better served that way. And our partnership with Dental Clinics North is huge. Right. You know, I certainly wouldn't want to do anything to jeopardize that.
No, I don't either. But the other thing I want to mention is that, you know, those openings that you're projecting could be doubled. Because I talked to them about that we are not going to build any more space. Right. But you can put a second shift on. And there's a lot of people who can't access that program during the daytime that might be able to go in and do it in the evening, and they are looking at whether or not they could build and do something like that. So we've already got the chairs. We do have additional capacity by just adding another shift.
Yeah, they said that was a minimum number.
Oh, yeah, right.
And we can keep this on the radar. I mean, if we find out through our local partners that, you know, we just can't quite accommodate it, we can definitely come back and revisit this.
Do we need a motion?
No,
Okay.
just for information.
This is a free program, isn't it, through NACO, or do they charge us?
No, they don't charge us. This is something that we can distribute to the public.
Well,
So we'd have to market it.
So
You have to
it would be
market
just
it, though.
just presenting the opportunity for them to buy into a program for discounts, and
I mean,
that's all it would be.
they provide us the little cards for free.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's something we could give to HelpLink, and if somebody doesn't qualify for anything, well, we at least have this.
People can still sign up for this, even though if we don't do it, it's our program.
Well, we have to
We have to approve it?
We have to sign an
Approve it.
agreement to provide the cards for the county residents. If they want
Keep it on the radar.
If they want it.
I think we should.
And NACO's going to continue to evaluate this, and maybe, when it first came out, I thought the fees were a little on the high side. So maybe that's something that they're going to evaluate in terms of, you know, is this the right pricing for this product based on their ability to attract customers. And two, like Herb said, if you have a small portion that could utilize this and would benefit from it, then it might make sense just to have it as a supplemental product out there. But that's just your call. I think for communities that don't have a Dental Clinics North to the extent that we have, this would be probably a really nice product.
I agree.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, moving forward, we have a staffing plan correction that was outlined in your packet, whereas in the 2013 budget, a 1/10 of an employee was eliminated in the 2013 budget that had been added early in 2012. Jerry probably has all the key information for that. It's pretty easy.
It really was just an error on my part, a phone conversation with Sally one day.
Oops.
Yeah, it was in the middle of the budget process, honestly. We typically will have a lot of vacant pieces in our staffing plan, which in this case included a couple FTEs, sanitarians from several years ago, and we thought that it was an ideal time to clean up our staffing plan with the new health officer coming in, and kind of one day I gave Sally the blanket authorization to eliminate all those vacant pieces, and I had forgotten this .1 FTE that we had added earlier in the year. And as typically, you know, again, when we filled the position, we usually take a conservative approach, and we had only posted the position at .4, and I had just forgotten that, so it really was an oversight on my part. But
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Limco, supported by Henschel. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Gary, I'd like to thank you and your staff there for the guided tour last night.
Yep,
They did
great.
an excellent job with it.
It's an absolutely
you.
gorgeous facility. If commissioners or the public have not had an opportunity, you know, try to get by and see it, because, you know, we rarely get an opportunity to toot our own horn, but we did a very great thing for our community for a long time with this building.
Yeah.
Yeah, if any of you weren't able to make it and would like to see it, give one of us a call. Probably try to get you over before clinics start or during lunch or after. We can't take you back when there's clients for confidentiality, but we'll definitely be glad to stay later. Come early.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. This brings us to the pavilion's remediation agreement.
Can we vote on that one?
Bob, are you handling this one for us?
Yeah.
Did we vote on that?
Did we vote on that motion? I think we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that we did.
Okay.
Vote on the last one?
It was unanimous.
Yes, it was.
All right, I just kind of mumbled.
So what's new? You were going to tell me we were going to be out of here at 7:30.
I know.
And then you started talking.
Bob Cooney, Deputy Civil Counsel, and I am here to address the letter that was sent to the board by Corey Hansen, the director of the pavilions. And what this concerns is some property that is essentially parking lot A outside the emergency room over at Munson Medical Center. Back in 1998, the county sold, well, I don't know if that's when they exactly sold this property to Munson, but the property was sold to build the emergency room, or at least part of it, and to provide space for the parking lot. And at that time, the county entered into a remediation agreement with Munson Medical Center because there were some environmental concerns, fluorescent lighting, asbestos, and an underground storage tank for gasoline, and that's really the only concern at this point. There was a leak in that gasoline tank, and I don't believe that was discovered until the construction began. And so when the remediation agreement was entered into, I think the belief was that they were just going to be removing an underground storage tank, and then they found out about the leak. And I think that's how things became derailed and why we still have a Michigan Department of Environmental Quality permit open on this property at this point. And the DEQ has contacted the pavilions a couple of times over the years. I think first before Corey Hansen took over at the pavilions, I think about 6 years ago. And essentially, the DEQ is interested in finalizing out the permit, but there's still remediation work that may need to be done there. Corey contracted with Inland Seas Engineering to do some work to figure out what do we need to satisfy DEQ at this point. My understanding from talking to Don Brady over at Inland Seas Engineering is that this is gasoline that is contained within the property and is not expected to drift or shift around or to contaminate other drinking water. And what he believes should satisfy DEQ is for Munson to agree to a restrictive covenant that would prohibit putting any wells on the property for drinking water, which there wouldn't be any reason to do that anyway. My understanding is what Munson wants to do with that property is put in a parking deck at some point. And I think they've had real discussions about that, and it might be something they want to do eventually. My understanding is, and this is one thing that I'm not clear about, and that is that is whether or not the county is still on the hook at this point for any remediation that might be required on the property. Munson certainly believes that the county is, and before they enter into any restrictive covenant, what they want the county to agree to is that we would be on the hook for any remediation at this point. Now, probably the most that would require would be dewatering, which would be if they dig below the ground surface and they have to remove water, that water would have to be either treated or shipped off, so they'd probably go to our septic treatment facility, I suppose. Or if the DEQ required it to actually remove the contaminated soil, but that isn't something that Inland Seas believes is going to be necessary. There are a few different variables here as far as risks go. If DEQ closes out the permit, that may be the end of, whether anything is required by DEQ further as far as remediation is concerned. If they're satisfied that this restrictive covenant would satisfy everyone involved, then it may be in the county's best interest to go ahead and agree with Munson that we would indemnify and hold harmless Munson from any future obligations on the property. We may have done that already with the 1998 agreement. I believe that's why the permit is still open, although I'm still attempting to determine whether or not the county did satisfy all of its obligations under the 1998 remediation agreement. And so what I am going to ask the board to do at this point, because I don't think that we have all the information that we need. When I talked to Corey originally about putting this on the agenda, my understanding was the county was simply going to be asked to, by Munson, to reaffirm its original 1998 agreement, which, you know, we're obligated under that anyway, and to go along with the restrictive covenant and take whatever actions necessary to close out the MDEQ permit. Munson is asking us, again, to go further than that, to hold them harmless, to basically agree to any type of remediation required at this point. And I'm not satisfied from looking at the prior agreement and from the facts I've been able to discover so far. And there was another environmental contractor on this project, SEC, I believe the initials, that was responsible for cooperating with MDEQ, making sure that everything was taken care of. And I'm not sure where they fell out of the picture at. So anyway, what I would ask this board to do is, I'm asking for a motion to postpone any decisions on this until the January Public Health and Safety meeting on January 2nd. And I'd like to invite Don Brady from Inland Seas Engineering to be here to discuss any environmental impacts, because again, I think what you decide may involve deciding what sort of risks the county board is willing to take, and he's the best person to be here to answer those questions. He wasn't available tonight. But again, I don't think this is something that could have been resolved tonight either, so.
Jason?
It's kind of, we should ask Munson how much they've saved and are sharing our bond rating and everything. How grateful are they? I'd move we postpone it until January.
Second. Motion by Gilman, supported by Lemko. Further discussion? Herb?
Yeah, I just want everybody to know that the DH board did approve unanimously sending this to the board and asking for approval. So they did say that at their last meeting. But my question is what happens if we do nothing?
Just stays.
The permit stays open.
Well, the permit remains open, and the concern is that eventually MDEQ is going to want to close that permit out, and that could include remediation up to and including removal of all soils, contaminated soils on the property.
But the deed has really been transferred already to Munson.
Yeah, they are the
But that doesn't mean
that.
there's not a restricted covenant that says that Grand Traverse County is responsible for environmental concern. You know, I guess the couple pieces that I would add is, number one, we should probably just run this by our planning department and our brownfield department, because there's, you know, what those folks do every day is look at remediation of petroleum product. Second thing is, if in fact Munson does decide to move forward with a parking structure on that, the excavation for the parking structure is going to get well deeper, significantly deeper than that fluid plume is going to be. That's going to take care of it all in itself. The only thing that's probably going to require as part of the remediation is very similar to what we heard of the Indigo Hotel, where that contaminated soil needed to be landfilled, could not be just redistributed.
Right.
So, you know, I really think that this is not a big deal. Maybe the simple, easy thing to do is to have, you know, and I'm speaking for somebody that I really probably am not supposed to, but maybe the simple thing is to declare that site a brownfield site, and the remediation gets taken care of at such time as the as an excavation or a project on that site happens. As long as it's covered with asphalt and an impervious surface, there is no so-called environmental risk, I believe is the way that.
Yeah, it's
DEP
considered
looks at
capped.
that.
It's considered really capped.
to be capped. So until such time as an excavation on that site occurs, remediation isn't required. But if they're going to dig in it, then remediation very well may be required. Munson doesn't want to share that cost, so that's why they want the county to take responsibility. Jason?
If it is declared a brownfield, does that set it, I mean, but that would potentially, for their sake, it would set it through a whole other cycle of things that they would have to go
Probably
through.
would benefit them, I would guess, because they'd get some funding for part of the digging and cleaning.
Well, what the brownfield does is allow for alternative funding, so is that they don't have to pay the bills, and we, the county per se, doesn't have to pay the bill for the environmental cleanup.
You know, I'd like you to change your motion, instead of delaying it until next month, that we give it to the Brownfield Authority and let them review this and then bring it back to us whenever they can get it back onto our schedule. If that meets.
Sounds reasonable.
You could do that at any time. I mean, I could, that's fine. I don't.
Okay.
Question, Bob, are you familiar with what remediation has already taken place? Have they run the different processes through the contamination?
What's the guy from Inland Seas?
I know about the removal of all of the asbestos from this was the former ambulance garage for the former medical care facility, and removal of the lighting ballast. As far as, I know the storage tank itself was removed, but I don't believe any of the contaminated soil was removed. That's as much as I know
Well, or
about
to
it.
what extent the contaminated soil was removed is the question.
Yeah.
I don't think it could have been a large, that was a small, very small building. I'll bet you the tank was small.
I don't think it was over a 500-gallon tank.
Right. And
Filled fuel out of it
that wasn't there
several
that
times.
long, really. So,
Well, I have the joy of managing a piece of property that's been contaminated since the 80s, and, when it first was contaminated, they, of course, ran tests, and they did, you had to get it so many parts per thousand before they would release it. Well, by the time that happened, the technology had gotten better. Now you have to have it so many parts per million have to be within the spec, and then by the time it got there, now the technology expanded. Now it's so many parts per 100 million and billion, and it just goes on, and we've got sites all over Michigan that just kind of perpetually remain open. The current state administration has kind of done this with a lot of sites with basically a covenant: if you'll never put a water well there, we'll just get it off the books, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. But I'm really curious what's been done there. But if it's not our property, is the county, I'm not going to accept any liability.
Well, they're following the title.
It wasn't.
They're following the title.
Okay, so my motion then is to give it to the Brownfield, essentially postpone and give it to the Brownfield and have them review it? Is that-
refer it to Brownfield for their evaluation.
Right.
Refer to Brownfield
Bob, are
for
you okay with
evaluation.
that?
Yes, I am, and I just want to make clear that I'm not certain that the county isn't on the hook already.
Right, I'm sure we are.
I think
I'm
Munson
sure we are.
feels that way.
Okay.
I think that was the original idea, that the county was going to take care of whatever environmental concerns there were. And
If we're in the chain, if
we
we're
did
in
change
the
the
title, chain of title, then we have responsibility.
And if we are in that remediation agreement in 1998. There's no question we're in that agreement.
We are.
Okay. So we're going to move this forward. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
All right, thanks, Bob.
All right. Board of Public Works request for septic and holding tank records.
I think they already have that, don't they?
Well,
Isn't this a FOIA issue?
I thought-
Did they just ask?
I'm not exactly sure. David, are you familiar with this request?
The septic?
Yes.
I mean, they have
I'm
the
not.
records of all
I don't know.
septic
I thought
Are they,
Thomas may
are they asking us to direct the health department to
Well, the
Provide-
way I'm reading the minutes from the Board of Public Works, it says that Moved by Lyle, supported by Wright, to request the Board of Commissioners to instruct the County Health Department to get accurate records of septic and holding tanks in Grand
That's what they're
Traverse
asking.
County. I believe that the best records that we have of how many, where there are septic tanks and where there are holding tanks in Grand Traverse County has already been provided to them.
Yeah, I think we've already given that to them.
Dick, do you have any
Well,
other?
yeah, when you guys get done. The health department records only go back so far. And I can't tell you what the date is, but it's easy, because I've gone in and asked about tanks. Well, our records don't go back that far. So there's a whole bunch of them that would be missed by the health department because they're just not in the records. And I can name you subdivisions where they don't have any idea where the system is. Duck Lake Park, a lot of them are on other people's property. Over there on Green Lake, it's the same thing. And so the health department really isn't a good place to get accurate numbers. However, and I can tell you this coming from way back, assessors, because a system is assessable, it has a value, and they charge for it on every piece of property. Okay, back in the old days, the assessor said, well, hey, we don't know where it is, but we know they got a system. So they put that on the assessment roll. Well, somewhere in between, you know, almost every building in the county has got a system. And I don't know why they don't just count the number of buildings that look like they might have a bathroom in them, and just count all those. Because I mean, they're not going to get an accurate number.
They're looking for septic and holding, right?
Huh?
They're looking for septic tanks and holding tanks.
Well, and those, in most cases, at least when I was back doing it, those were easy to tell because the township back in those days used to give the guy a 10% discount on the value of his property because of the fact he had a pump all the time. So they give them a little discount on their assessment. So
Yeah, they quit doing that a long time ago.
well, hey, it was the only reason.
Did we have automobiles back then, or?
No, they knew where the tanks, the holding tanks were because, you know, people wanted to be aware of the fact they were getting pumped 6 times a year or whatever, and it would cost them a lot of extra money. And just because they built in the wrong place, they wanted credit for it. But I don't know how to
Do we
come
have
up
any other
with an
brilliant
accurate
words of
number.
wisdom in this subject from the health department?
Well,
I can tell you, I talked to Tom Buss, the environmental health director, and we have accurate records for the systems that are in place since the code was put in place. So any system that requires permit with our current code. If a system predates the code, we would not have that because it's not something we enforced
So what would the
unless
date
someone
of that be?
did an upgrade. I don't know that date, to be
but
honest.
there is a lot of them that predate the code.
Yes, and there could be some, there may be a few out there that are under the radar that we wouldn't know about unless there was a complaint or there was an issue that brought it to our attention. But it would not be many.
One of the assignments that the Board of Public Works gave Ross Childs when he was on contract with them and as the acting director was to go out and get an established number of septic tanks and holding tanks in Grand Traverse County, and he did complete that project. So you might want to check with Ross in terms of to the extent his research got, but that would be, we could not provide any more than what Ross has already provided the Board of Public Works, in my opinion.
I firmly believe we've provided the best information that Grand Traverse County can provide to them.
Yeah, and they're going to miss some. Yeah, but that's my suggestion was, if we have to, have somebody work with them and the equalization department, because the equalization department has all the assessment values, you know, all the notations and everything else. So they're working together, but they're talking about asking us to do something that's going to cost a lot of money.
Well, the other one is we got a great GIS department, and whether or not they can identify, and that would be the department you really want to be working with on this situation rather than Department of Health, because those records don't go back. But also, this is another reason why that we ought to be following in Long Lake's footsteps and require that we have an inspection of septic tanks upon sale of a house or any kind of a piece of property, then you do start to have that record
That's going to take
when you have that.
Yeah,
You're
but
going to live long enough.
So,
an inspection of a septic tank, it's not the tank that needs to be inspected. That's pretty obvious if you got a problem with the tank. It's the field.
Yep.
And how can you adequately do an inspection of a field?
well, Long Lake's been successfully doing it.
They've got
so-
the ordinance, but I'll tell you what, I don't think it accomplishes much, other than it's a moneymaker.
Put a stick in the ground and they open up
That's a whole nother discussion.
A whole nother discussion.
Okay,
But
so-
I would think that we ought to be.
I think GIS and
Anyway around it.
equalization are working on that.
I don't
I don't know
know
what
that
they're
we need to
doing.
have formal action other than, we will ask GIS if they have a way to identify where the tanks are. Any information that Grand Traverse County has available as to where there are septic tanks or holding tanks in Grand Traverse County will be made available to them. That's,
And I'd ask them, I'd refer them to Ross in terms to the extent that he did his
yeah,
evaluation.
well, I would hope that they got the information that he provided them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't want to see us spending a whole bunch of money.
No, I don't see
on
time,
making
a lot of time
It
around.
doesn't make that much difference anyway.
No, I think they're just doing a verification thing. I think
Okay,
they got the numbers.
moving forward, we have no unfinished business, no new business. Brings us to second opportunity for public input, comment. Anyone wishing to make comment at this time?
I'll make a quick comment. On that same letter, it says, "Motion by Wayne Clatter, support by Jack Kelly, to recommend the BPW to ask staff to bring back a recommendation for a single hauler system." The motion was approved unanimously. I just want to say publicly that putting a whole bunch of haulers out of business so that you can give all the business to one is not going to fix the financial problems of that septic treatment plant. They are barking up the wrong tree.
I agree.
Well, Rob, they're barking up another tree that's shaky.
Gosh.
And
No.
that's raising the price by 50%.
Okay,
They can take those tanks and clean them out and make wine.
additional second public comment? Commissioner committee reports? Announcements or notices? The ad hoc committee to discuss the activities of the building authority has set a meeting for next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
December 12th.
Correct.
That'll be December 12th, that ad hoc committee, and who, I'm trying to
Richardson, me.
remember, Ross
Yeah.
and Larry and I.
And Bob Cooney and Dave Benda.
Okay.
And
To talk about the functions of the
Right.
building authority, and if we wanted to talk about expanding it or changing their responsibility.
And the meeting will be here in this room.
Can we back up just a little bit?
Sure.
The BPW had a committee of the whole meeting the other day, and it looks very favorable that they're not going after the special assessment district because they don't like war. But they are going to probably very soon move to raise the prices to 18 cents a gallon. And I told them the other day, I said, it's not going to work. I said, but I'll vote for it because I don't want a special assessment district. But
Jason?
looks like they're going in that direction. To be accomplished probably by the end of the year.
There is also discussion, somebody has gotten a hold of me and said that they'd like to talk to some folks on the BPW about actually purchasing the septic facility. And I explained to them, I said, right, a couple of months ago, it might have been cheaper because now there's a bond to pay, you'd have to pay the costs. But I'll tell you what, if that could be done, and
Have at her.
have at her. I'd say let the talks begin. It's somewhat off the wall, but they're looking at an investor and then a coalition of the actual haulers who would own a very small percentage alongside of the investor. So just keep an open mind to some of the possibilities that'll be coming up in the next couple of months.
Great.
Yeah, I want to mention one other quick thing. A month ago at the road commission, I couldn't believe the fighting and arguing that was going on between them. And last month's meeting, it looked like a different commission. They were getting along good, and they had a presentation by their engineer on different ways of fixing roads, even one road fixing it, he calls it fix by mix. And he showed where he could save hundreds of thousands of dollars on fixing some roads just by doing it different in different areas, depending on the damage done to the road. So that was an interesting meeting.
They have a new engineer in place. They have a new manager in place. And my understanding was, last month's meeting, they were all on their best behavior. So we're hopefully that will continue.
Kind of like we have been with Dave.
So was I.
I'm starting to come loose a little.
We have no need for a closed session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All gone now.